I'm Stephan Spijkers. I'm co-founder of PIM Vendors, and you are watching our PIM Academy on PIM, Product Information Management, and AI, Artificial Intelligence. I want to start with some housekeeping. You are in a Academy session where I'll be talking a lot, but I'm very interested in your experience and your questions as well. So on YouTube, there's a chat where everyone can participate, ask questions, ask clarification. I'll try to weave that into the conversation and into the presentation that I have prepared for you, but also there is some room for Q&A afterwards. So if you have any questions at the end of this and you're still with us, then for sure ask and I'll try to answer your questions. Now let's head on over to the presentation. So PIM and AI, how generative AI is reading product data. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and generative AI, and we have been trying to, well, basically find a way on how artificial intelligence is going to influence the world of PIM, of product information management and product data. And we'll explore that transformation in this session. So what we'll cover today is a quick introduction of what PIM, product information management, is. We'll dive into generative AI and we'll go into some technical depth, so bear with. And then we'll basically see how these worlds will interact and intersect and how the AI world and revolution is going to transform the world of product information management. And we'll end with some next steps and future reading. So let's head on over to what is PIM. Well, maybe let's first introduce myself. So I already said I'm the co-founder of PIMvendors.com. I usually do startup scale-ups as technical or operational and responsible. I'm usually in the world of e-commerce or PIM, and I've been working in e-commerce for 15 years, being involved in the startup and scale-up of various e-commerce companies. And as you can see, I'm an AI enthusiast. Having created this nice image of myself without outer space. So again, what is PIM? We'll do a quick introduction. So product information management is both a process of managing product data. So that means storing the data, maintaining the product data model, and then publishing that data, as well as the name for the tooling dedicated to managing this process and making it as efficient as possible. We'll look at all these channels in turn because we'll dive into the process of PIM next. PIM consists of three different phases, three distinct phases. Every PIM tool has tooling that helps make this process more efficient. It starts with onboarding product data. You get product data from various sources. If you're a manufacturer, that is your PLM, lifecycle management tool, design tooling, maybe your ERP. If you're a retailer, it is your suppliers. So you'll get that from your wholesalers. You can get it from a data pool, an external tool to manage all that data in one central place. But you have to onboard all that from various sources and map it to your internal product data model. Afterwards, enriching that product data. So you'll add attributes internally that are relevant for you or that are relevant for your customers. And that means basically adding text, but also adding rich media, images, product descriptions, product manuals, 3D models, all that stuff, all that makes a rich product experience is added during the enrichment phase. And that can be done by internal sources, such as your copywriters, your photography department, but it can also be done by external sources. So your translation bureau, your translation partners, your external photographer, your external 3D model maker. Those sources can be internal and external. And then product data needs to be published. So from the PIM or from your product database, you need to map it and then send it to your internal and external platforms. That could be your owned and operated e-commerce store, could be your CMS, could be an app. That is all internal, but it could also be a marketplace, your customers, a print catalog. All that needs to happen in the publication phase. You need to map your product data to the product data models of your recipients. And then on top of that sits the workflow management. So dashboards, custom roles, tooling, single sign-on, you can manage the process efficiently. And that means knowing in which stage your product is. Is it ready for publication? Why is it ready? Is there a bottleneck at the German translation department? Workflow management tooling helps to identify those bottlenecks. And it all revolves around the product data model. So how you define your product. Um, it is centered around a core master data. So it's a multi-layered data entity, and it has at the center, at the core, the master data. That is EAN, dimensions, all the, let's say, boring data, but it is the core of your product data. Surrounding that is the rich product data. So images, that could be pack shots, but it could also be editorial and inspirational images. It's the commercial descriptions. It's everything that helps create a rich product experience. And then at the outer layer, there's all the interactions with various other systems. So pricing and commercial information, customer interactions and reviews that is pulled into the PIM system to enrich that product even further. Could also be internal relations, so relations to upsells or spare parts. And then we already discussed relationships, but it is often related to other internal three-letter systems. I think we all have heard of some of these systems, and we'll go through them in turn. So we have the master data management, the we have the PIM, the product information management tool that we are discussing right now. It's a data or the digital asset management tool that covers all your images, fact sheets, 3D models, your PLM, your product lifecycle management tool that we quickly touched. And I think the three-letter combination that most of us know, the ERP or the enterprise resource planning, which is more focused on, well, the master data and managing transactions. All right. But how does PIM relate to all those systems in a process? So you get information from your ERP, your PLM for other systems, some internal, some external. You bring them either directly into your PIM or you bring them into your NDM, your master data management tool, and you start with the onboarding and the enrichment, and then finally to the output phase. Um, that you'll have connections to your DAM, your digital asset management tool, and you'll have the control and workflows on top to manage that whole process of, well, onboarding products, creating products, enriching them, making that rich product experience possible, and then publishing them to various output channels. All right. So we discussed product information management. Now let's go to generative AI. I hope I can give you some, well, high-level overview without losing you all. Token prediction and noise reduction. That is the two key terms that we're going to discuss. But first, a short history of artificial intelligence. Every tooling that helps do what we humans do can be classified as artificial intelligence. So even Microsoft Office and Excel can be classified as AI. But when we talk about AI, we often mean machine learning. We refer to deep learning and neural networks. And I think since the launch of ChatGPT 3, we mean generative AI. And we'll dive into each of them in turn. So what is machine learning? It all starts here. It is a class of AI where algorithms train and improve without explicit programming. So there is no explicit end state programmed into the system. It trains by consuming a lot of raw data in the thousands, hundreds of thousands of data points. It does need some human intervention to learn what is right, what is not. And in the end, you can put in input like an image from a street, and it identifies what the stop sign is if you have helped it with the human intervention to learn what a stop sign is. I've included a small graph so you see artificial intelligence is everything. Machine learning is a subset of AI, and then deep learning is again a subset of machine learning. So then what is deep learning and what are neural networks? So deep learning is a class of machine learning. It's a subset, and it uses an approach that mimics the human brain by creating a neural network. That is also where the neural part comes from, and that is several layers deep. So that's why it's called deep learning. And it has a vastly better approach and performance than machine. However, you need a lot more data. So it uses a lot of raw data, and we are talking millions of data points. But it does refine by self-adaptive algorithms. So you don't need any human intervention during the training phases. It is structured as a neural network. So as you can see on the image on the top right, there is an input layer. There's, in this case, 2 hidden layers, but there could be as many as you want or need, or can computationally add to the system. Then there's an output layer. And again, it has the same goal as the machine learning algorithms, which is classify, decide on whether you are traveling on the road or not, whether you are stop at the stop sign or not. And then there is generative AI, and it uses the same basic approach as deep learning, but with a vastly, instead of classifying input, generating new output. It all revolves around a base layer or base model trained by consuming a lot of raw data. Usually it is the internet with some books, or at least parts of the internet. And then it can be refined with additional focused training. Generative AI takes natural language, a prompt, as input. So you just type in a question and it answers. And then it does 2 things. It can do text generation through token prediction, and it can do image generation through diffusion. So you see here on the top right, you see 2 images generated through diffusion. How does this work? At least, how does this work in high level? Large language models, which is the driving force, the model behind generative AI, at least the text-based AI, works by predicting chunks of characters, also called tokens. It basically predicts the sequence of tokens is most likely the best, and then outputs that best sequence. And that does it on a chosen large language model. There are tens of large language models to choose from. It takes the context that is provided, so you can give it a lot of context, basically upload a book, and then ask questions about it. And you have to give it a prompt. Right? So you have to ask it a question, and based on how you phrase that question and how much context and basically role play you add to the question, to the prompt, you get a different answer. So in this case, I took what is tokens. I took the token generation from GPT-3, and you can see the text on the left, how many tokens and characters were involved, and also how it splits up the text in different tokens. So we discussed the model, the context, and the prompt. So that is the core of, well, basically creating a combination of an AI, a generative AI that best works for you. And that means making decisions about the best open or closed source model, which is usually built on a foundation model. You have to decide on fine tuning, instruction tuning. You have to decide on quantization or not. You have to decide on vectorizing your context and how you do that and how you offer prompts. zero shot. So just one question or one prompt or a series of questions where basically you ask follow-up questions to fine-tune the answer. And on the right, you can see basically a quick overview of different open and closed developer frameworks, agents to automate your prompts and your searches and your queries, um, chatbot technologies, databases, and inference models. So the different models that you can use. So again, foundation models are the sort of big models that you have in the market. For example, take Llama from Meta, Facebook model. But then that model, as it is open source, has been fine-tuned by well, developers around the world. Take, for example, the instruction fine-tuned alpaca model. And again, making that trade-off between choosing your best model, fine-tuning it, yes or no, getting the right context, how you factorize that context, and then again, how you offer prompts, that is a world in and of itself. But it all plays a role in getting the best output, especially when it comes to application, which we'll be seeing during the product information management tool. And then, I mean, we discussed the text generation. Now let's look at image generation, the other big leg of generative AI. So we have a complicated answer on how stable diffusion works because it is complicated. I don't understand it myself, and it would be wrong to try and explain it to you here. Super summarized way, you basically are reducing noise to try and approach an image described in your prompt. So you're asking for the image of a cat, and the model will try in usually 20 steps, can be as many as 100 steps or as few as 3 steps, try and just reduce the noise in an image to basically create the image of your prompt, in this case. And again, for all the practical purposes, what matters during image generation is, again, the chosen model. You have the closed source models, Midjourney, LE, the open source models, just Fusion. You can fine tune that model. So I fine tuned the model, the stable diffusion model, to generate images of myself, right? So the astronaut that looked like me, I hope. And then again, the prompt and the combination of prompt, the negative prompt, all kinds of settings that you can change and all these kinds of settings interact. But again, I'm not an expert, and it's about these main three characteristics. So getting that best combination again depends on the type of image you want generated. Some models are better at generating different kinds of context. It depends on how much, and even if you have example data that you have for local fine tunings. I had some images of myself. You have images of public people if you want to create a model around Elon Musk, for example, to do fine tuning, and then your budget, because fine tuning a model and also running a model takes a lot of compute, a lot of graphic processor units, and that takes money. We're seeing an explosion right now. And I think a lot of us see all kinds of news around AI now. And I think there's three key factors driving the current revolution. Um, First of it is technology user interface. So you need to have the technology to be developed and also a user interface to be refined to get across the chasm of innovation adoption. So yes, most of these toolings and algorithms existed in research. There were chatbots before ChatGPT 3, but the user interface was either the terminal, like the command line, or it didn't work as good as you would have hoped. So we're getting over that chasm of innovation adoption. Not unimportantly, compute power has gone down. I'm not sure if that is the boom of the crypto space where everyone was trying to mine Bitcoin with their GPU. But what we're seeing, and this is an image from the NVIDIA quarterly presentation, where you see how Moore's law is still in effect for GPU computing performance. It is even much steeper than the standard Moore's law, where the computing performance is increasing. Well, it says here 1,000-fold in 10 years, and that is huge. It makes all these complicated networks, these multi-layered deep learning networks, suddenly achievable with hardware that is, well, that you can pay for without being a Google or a Microsoft, even though those are still early entrants in this market, because they have that compute, they have the resources. And then finally, it's a bit harder to define the human factor. So we were ready, maybe based on the post-COVID boom or the disappointment of Web3. There was a new thing that people wanted to chase, and we were basically ready to embrace AI-generated art chatbots. So we're not being distracted by other bubbles or other technologies or other things in life. We were ready to basically talk about this subject and experiment with it. Okay. Now, how do these worlds of product information management and artificial intelligence, how do they intersect? And is artificial intelligence a solution? Like, can it solve the whole product data problem? Or is it just the tool that we will be using during the process? So, knowing what we know about artificial intelligence and what we just discussed about the process of product information management, we think that generative AI will be applied in the three key product generation processes. So during the product data journey, we'll see Gen AI being used during onboarding, specifically when it comes to the mapping of data and the cleansing of data. We'll see it being used during enrichment, which is maybe the most obvious point, right? Generation of text and attributes, generation of images, right? You saw the commercial images just a few slides back. Those were generated by AI. Those were not taken by a photographer. And then during the publication phase, again, mapping the data to the product data model of your output channels. So looking at onboarding, yes, the main revolution of generative AI is the generative part, right? So you can create new content, but those underlying large language models are also very good at classification, which means that they can map an attribute, such as a color, turquoise, to a certain taxonomy. So if you have a list of colors that just contains red, blue, and green, the large language model can say turquoise actually maps to, and that can be an attribute, a product, or like the whole structure of a product in an XML or in a JSON file, even just the URL of a product to map it to a certain attribute. And then again, it can be used to cleanse data. So removing unnecessary data, making sure the product title matches your internal naming conventions, just to name a few. So I have some examples here. So this example uses OpenAI, ChatGPT, and it uses it in a spreadsheet to cleanse the company names on the left. So you get 4 company names, and they have the legal entity abbreviations, right? You can see that, well, really quickly in the formula, and it cleanses them. But even the car by Tesla Motors identifies that Tesla Motors is the brand, but removes car by, even though it is not specifically instructed to remove car by. Yes, unnecessary text, but it identifies that correctly. So cleansing of data. Then, as we just discussed, the most obvious application of generative AI, enrichment. And that means creation of descriptions and attributes, translation of descriptions and attributes, right? There's a lot of work when you want to enter the German market from the Netherlands to translate your whole product database. And then determining attributes based on existing product. So you can have a set of product data from your supplier, but it's not structured in the way you want to have, or it doesn't include the product data attributes that you want to have. And based on the existing product data, it can then determine your attributes and fill your attributes automatically. Again, some examples from connecting the dots, using, in this case, their chatbot connected to OpenAI. They call their chatbot PIM, and they use it to enrich a product by asking their chatbot to come up with suggestions. And the product chatbot comes up with suggestions based on existing product data, and it maps it automatically to the right attribute. So it matches the brand. You can see the color, you can see the price, and it matches them to the attributes on the left. So you match these directly into the PIM and into the product on the left. Another example from connecting the dots is using generative AI to create a product description. It takes the attributes from the product, the existing attributes that you have, and then generates a short description, in this case in Dutch, but since it's OpenAI, it can generate it in any language. You copy it, and then you paste it right into the short description. And then finally, just specific information, so a specific suggestion for, in this case, the short description, basically from walking through the product and walking through attributes on the left. You click on the PIM button, so you ask PIM for help. It suggests the short description automatically. 3 ways using journey enrichment. And then publication. So we said it's very good at classification. And during publication, you will always be mapping that product data model of your internal database to your data models of your outbound channels. We discussed that could be your internal solutions, your e-commerce solutions, could be your marketplaces. Those are externally, could be marketing feeds, or could be directly to the data models of your customers. So again, we can ask a large language model, we can ask OpenAI to generate or to map that data to the output channel. So in this case, we take a link, right? Chat interface from OpenAI. I used ChatGPT-4 for this with a plugin. I asked it, I gave it a link, in this case, an Amazon product, and just asked it to map it to one of the 12 categories. And it reviews the page and maps the product, in this case, to the correct taxonomy. And yes, this is very manual. I wouldn't recommend doing it this way. I think a human could have seen that these are hiking socks themselves. But obviously, you can also use this as an API through an API and integrate this automatically into your tooling. And Ian, I'll get back to your question. It's a good question. So, AI as a solution or as a tool. In the context of PIM, I believe that it'll not replace all the PIM functions and become a full solution. Yes, you will still need a dedicated tooling to manage that whole product data journey and provide the dashboards and workflows to facilitate that process. But I do think that of all the different 3-letter systems, product information management, PIM, will be one of the toolings most radically impacted by generative AI. And it impacts all key steps of that product information management process, onboarding to enrichment to publication, automating significant parts of that whole process. All right. Maybe let's get back to the question from Jan. So we have heard about hallucinations, right? So the generative AI can produce false or misleading or unethical information. Um, and yes, at this point, QA is required. Still, I would say even now, through, for example, multi-shot prompting, and I think later on with better fine-tuned models, maybe models that are focused purely on product data generation, um, or through other safety checks, um, we can remove the risk of hallucination and make sure that if you ask him to generate descriptions for your products automatically, that it doesn't lead to some kind of liability risk where it says that your your paint is actually not flammable, even though it is, right? So yes, that is certainly a risk, and it needs to be mitigated. There are already solutions out there that do this, but the standard just copy paste from ChatGPT 4, it does lead to wrong product information. So yes, at this point, it is a right. Next steps. Um, so what, right? So PIM will be massively influenced by generative AI. Yes, your CRM, e-commerce. They're all adding generative AI features directly into their tooling, and there's sort of a gold rush now when it comes to launching new features. Um, Still, we mentioned that generative AI revolves around the model, the context, and the prompt, right? So if it's text or even if it's imagery, these are the key three factors that need to be managed and need to be fine-tuned. And we believe that the true competitive advantage lying in crafting those specific prompt chains and harnessing private context. Um, yes, there will be solutions that use their own custom models, but I don't believe that this is something that just normal businesses should be focusing on. Um, they should either pick a model from the shelf, use that in their context, in their business, or license one of the models that are there and are trained specifically for a specific task. Um, I don't see a reason why all companies definitely hurry to rush and basically launch their own generative AI models. Though, if you're a PIM, or if you're an e-commerce solution, or if you're a CRM, I do understand why you are now worried and adding these three key features to your tooling. I've written an article about this. You see it in the screenshot. I invite you to check it out. So what again, right? So there's three phases in the evolution and transformation of generative AI. And some of us here in the audience, I think, have already entered the second phase by using generative AI features in the toolings that you have available. But I think most people out of our world and that are not in IT or not interested in technology are not even in the first phase. So let's dive into the phases and discuss how it sort of moves from phase one to phase three. So first phase is that sort of manual copy and pasting, right? So you use your generative AI separately, copying input from your chat window into your and copying it from your chat with ChatGPT 4 and pasting it into your Excel or pasting it into your Shopify. That's something everyone can already use, and it's the most sort of simple way of using generative AI in your workflows. Still very manual, but it's simple. Second phase is the integration of generative AI features into existing tooling and solutions. So what we just saw from connecting the dots, you will see that with with a lot of tooling in the nearby future. Be it e-commerce solution, be it in your PIM solution, be it in your CRM solution, in your email solution, um, it will be used as an add-on to the daily tasks workflows of users, and it will remove the manual work of copy paste. And then the third phase is, well, tools that are built from the ground up around generative AI. So it uses the functionalities inside the toolings, but also across tooling. So to map data generated by tool A into the data needed by tool B. And I haven't seen that tooling yet, but I'm very curious to hear if you've seen some interesting toolings being developed. And I think it's still day one when it comes to generative AI, just like we didn't know that, well, the iPhone would be to combine location data, combine a credit card, and combine an internet connection to create a taxi business. Um, the first day we were building beer drinking apps, right? Or lightsaber apps. So I think we're still very much in the beer drinking app and lightsaber app stage with generative AI, building, creating movies, creating images that are fun. Maybe we've seen glimpses of the second phase. I would be very curious if you have examples of sort of third level where we have tooling built from the ground up around it. We'll have another event coming, and it'll be a combined session where we have three lightning demos, so three short demos of three different toolings, followed by a quick Q&A and roundtable discussion led by me. And we'll have three inspiring product data and AI companies that will be showing their tooling, AI vision, and then, of course, discussing the revolution happening in generative AI world. I'll introduce them in turn. So we have Dots, Mirrors.ai, and Ica that will be inviting back to this stage in weeks. And I invite you to this next event as well. So introducing them in turn, we have Connecting the Dots, a leading PIM solution from the Netherlands, focusing on e-commerce and retail, so at the end of the value chain, with two fully featured solutions, one focusing more on entry level to mid-market, one enterprise solution, CTD PIM Enterprise, focusing on complex challenges that also include the PLM side, but also include pricing solutions or long-tail catalogs that are not standard PIM features. And they will be one of the companies presenting their tooling and their AI vision on the 14th. We'll have Miros, and they use visual intelligence to add attributes, but also make search on hidden attributes. What you just saw was that a search on Harrods, multi-call addresses, led to one result. But if you use the Miros database, or using the database of Harrods itself, it actually finds plenty of addresses that are multicolored. And it helps you basically navigate the world through visual search instead of through text-based search. So again, you see them searching for multicolored addresses. Result, using the same product database on the Harrods side, Miros actually finds tens, hundreds of addresses. So super interesting to see what they have in offer. And then finally, next week, we'll have Ica. They use a custom large language model, and I'm very curious how much they're willing to divulge. But they are on the beginning of that product data journey, so on the data cleansing, data enrichment, where they use their custom large language model to cleanse data, to enrich data, to structure data, and to compare data before it enters your system or after it has entered your system, and do that at scale and in a very efficient manner, doing things that took hours or weeks, that took days or weeks or even months, in hours. So I would say sign up today. It's in exactly 2 weeks, so on Thursday, September 14th. Again, same time, roughly 2 hours with demos and roundtables and Q&A. There's a sign-up link, bit.ly/AIPIM demo, but I'll also make sure to invite you, and of course, you'll get the presentation of today as well. You can click on the link itself. And then a quick look at PIMvendors.com, right? We offer independent and free PIM and AI content. So we have articles in our knowledge base that are not focused on selling one solution or the other, but we offer an independent view like this session really. We have independent and free tools to calculate PIM costs, but also to find out which PIMs best fit your PIM profile. And of course, we do PIM selection consulting without being tied to one vendor, because we have over 250 PIMs in our database and more than 40 PIMs that we work with independently. Then we help you find the PIM that is tailored to your unique requirements. We do that with an independent and free algorithm. And we sit between basically the vendor and the system integrator, and then you as a user, so the retailer, the wholesaler, and manufacturer, as an independent broker. We know what your requirements are, and we're able to translate the requirements of your teams into scenarios and features that these vendors offer. So you don't have to compare these 500 question requirement lists where you say that you need them all. And then you're going to ask the vendors to fill in those lists where they say, hey, we actually support those 500 features, of course. But we dive into your requirements, determine scenarios, and then test those scenarios with you and the vendors. So you focus really on your key features and your key requirements. We've done that for various retailers, manufacturers, wholesalers, and we do that through two different tools. So I would invite you first to start with a cost estimation tool. You can click the button or search on our website, or directly go into the full scan where you can get independent PIM shortlist. It takes 10, maybe 20 minutes, so I would say grab a coffee. And then if you have any questions, I would say ask or reach out. I know that Chris is in the audience as well. Do you have any questions, right? So do you have any questions on using AI in the PIM world, on building your own generative AI models, on fine-tuning them, questions on building chatbots, questions on risks of using artificial intelligence, anything at all. And yes, you can use the chat on the right-hand side. All right. Maybe I scared you guys off with the tokens and the stable diffusion stuff. I hope not. In any case, if you have any questions on PIM or any questions on artificial intelligence, if you're curious about where to start your journey, if you want to know where the PIM and AI revolution will take you, let me know. You know where to find me, and you know where to find me on LinkedIn. And I would say I really would like to see you next in 2 weeks for the next session. So Thursday, September 14th, from 1500 to 1700 hours CST, so Amsterdam time. A combination of demos, so 3 short 20-minute demos where each vendor gets the stage to present their tooling, show how it works, followed by a roundtable discussion with 3 experts. And of course, you can sign up through the link. Kay has a quick question, so I'll answer that. Are PIM tools integrating AI tools inside their product and asking customers for upgrade, or are they building integrations? I think they're doing both. So I have seen examples of both. So what you just saw from connecting the dots is actually the first. Right? So they are building integrations with, in this case, ChatGPT, so OpenAI. And they're doing that at no extra cost. At least I haven't seen any sort of AI add-ons, though that probably will vary across different PIM solutions. Then, like ICA, tools like ICA, those can, of course, be integrated into any PIM, right? So a PIM can support ChatGPT or generative AI natively, like connecting the dots in their tool, but you can also build integration with outside specialist tools, like in this case, iCard, that helps you cleanse that data through an integration. Um, and then the question by Prantik, where there is generative AI use cases for PIM workflows. Um, I would have to think about that. So um, yes, when we look at product data generation workflows, right? So moving product from just having master data to a fully enriched product. Um, well, I think you just start the steps of generating attributes, of generating short descriptions directly through artificial intelligence. So that is one useful application during the PIM workflow, but also the generation of background images or inspirational images can also be done through AI. So yes, there's definitely a useful case for generative AI in PIM workflows. If you look at like the dashboards and workflow management, I don't I don't see a direct link on how it can help. Um, it's more integrated into the PIM tooling itself without the need for AI. But I would love to be surprised by any PIM or any solution using generative AI, even in the workflow management, in the control and dashboard setting. And Chris makes a great point. AI is used a lot in translation, so I think um, you're seeing 3, 4 competitive toolings that are now being used to translate products, and it's it's a mix of either using OpenAI, which is okay-ish when it comes to translation. You can use Google Translate, which is again okay-ish, maybe a bit better. But I think the market leader here is clearly DL, where AI translation is used to quickly translate products. Yeah. Cool. Um, any other questions? Any other? Are people scared of AI taking over the world? Are we going to have AI tools talking to AI tools, having product data generated by AI tools without the intervention and QA of people? Maybe even AI being used to generate new products and product designs. I think that's already happening. Um, if so, let me know. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Sign up through the link. I'll share the presentation and I'll share the recording of this session um, with you after the end. And I wish you all a good afternoon.